31st December 2019, China declared to the world that there is a new virus which is killing people. And the government was very swift to act, and on the 6th of January 2020, we had a meeting with the Ministry of Health and the ICMR, and we discussed what measures we have to adopt for this new unknown virus. We started with screening of people at the airports, and then on 26th of January, the same year, 2020, we had the first medical doctor, girl, student, who flew from Wuhan to Hong Kong, Hong Kong to Calcutta, Calcutta to Bangalore, Bangalore to Cochin, and then to her hometown. The next day we found that she had fever and she was positive for COVID, which we tested in the Alipur lab in Kerala and reconfirmed at the National Institute of Virology in Pune. And once that was confirmed, we had to break this news to the government, and we brought the news to the government that the virus had entered the shores of our country. Within a matter of few weeks, within a matter of a week actually, the government, the cabinet secretary and the ministers, there was a group of ministers created, group of secretaries that was created, and that was meeting every day, and decisions were taken by the hour in the month of February. And this institution, which is 114 years old, the Indian Council of Medical Research, was responsible at that point in time for the diagnostics. And once it was responsible for the diagnostics, it was in the thick of COVID, and we had to guide the government, guide the population for this COVID. So the government's approach was calibrated, and the government was serious from the beginning. The advantage that we had, that our pandemic in India was about 2 to 3 months later than what happened in the West, and we could take the learnings from what was happening in the West, and we had countrywide scaling of diagnostic laboratories to 3,000. We had a nationwide sero survey, the largest sero survey ever done in the world. We developed the indigenous vaccine, the preclinical animal studies, and we'd had innovative drone delivery of vaccines for the first time in the world. Vaccines were delivered by drones. So I, first of all, pay tribute to my predecessors who had the vision to set up a BSL-4 laboratory in 2011. And this is the first biosafety level 4 laboratory in the Southeast Asia region, much ahead of the second BSL-4 laboratory, which is the notorious Wuhan lab set up in 2017. So we were ahead of this time, and this lab, if you ever find time, please visit it in Pune. It's heavily guarded, electric wire fencing, and you have to change and negative pressure, and it is state-of-the-art, set up in 2011. We were the 5th country in the world to isolate the virus, and the first country to isolate the alpha virus, and then the beta and delta and the Omicron. Our testing strategy was, and I've come back to February of 2020. First case in Wuhan was India was in 26 January 2020, and in the month of February, we didn't have testing kits. We asked the WHO, they gave us 10,000 kits for the population of India. We asked China, they said, please buy these kits within 1 hour or we will divert them to some other country. And here we found that our youngsters, our startups, were able to develop these kits, and by the month of March, we had kits developed in India, and by the month of June, July, we were exporting them to many parts of the country, and that is the power of our youngsters and our startups. And I congratulate these startups, and we had more than 900 million tests done, and we had the rapid antigen test, which was less than $1, and the RT-PCR test, which was less than $2, available in India, and we were exporting to many parts of the world. We had the TrueNat, which we were able to repurpose, and this was an innovation of the Indian Institute of Science, which got WHO pre-qualification for tuberculosis, and by 2017 it got WHO pre-qualification, and several of these TrueNat machines were available in different parts of the country. They were repurposed in a matter of 2 weeks for COVID testing, and by April we had TrueNat available to 8,000 of those kits of machines available in different parts of the country. A similar platform was developed by the United Kingdom called the DNA Nudge, that was launched in September. We were the second country in the world to start the rapid antigen test when we had the first wave in Delhi in the June of 2020, and then by September we had testing available on demand to different parts of the world. This is the COVID test, the TrueNat, which was again repurposed for various other diagnostics, but this was developed by scientists from the Indian Institute of Science. The government, in the month of February, we had about 15 Italian tourists visiting India, and they were in Agra, Rajasthan, and they had COVID. So we were able to get samples from them and was able to culture the virus from those 15 Italian tourists, and we had that virus with us by the 9th of March. And we were trying to get the virus from different international agencies, but all of them refused to give us the virus because they needed it for themselves. And by 9th of March, we had the virus, and that was available for us for developing vaccines, for drugs, for diagnostics. And then we requested we had, in the month of February, every day the cabinet secretary was meeting, 1 hour meeting, 40 minutes discussion, 10 minutes summary, 5 minutes for rebuttal, and then the decision was taken in those 55 minutes. Whether it was for PPE, whether it was for masks, whether it was for drugs, whether it was for lockdowns, whether it was for, not for lockdown, mainly for vaccines and other chemicals, etc. Over the group of secretaries, there were the group of ministers, which was meeting once a week and taking stock of what was discussed and guiding us. And on top of that was our leadership, was meeting with all the chief ministers, initially physically every 2 weeks, and then virtually every 2 weeks, and guiding all the states, taking all of them along in this fight against COVID-19. So on the 10th once we isolated the virus, we told the cabinet secretary we've isolated the virus, and now we are in a position to develop neurodiagnostics. He and I had been insisting on imposing a nationwide restriction, as well as letting people, less of international visitors coming to India. And then we requested him, and he said, okay, you make a presentation to the leadership. On the 18th of March, we made a five-slide PowerPoint presentation to the leadership, requesting him to impose a nationwide lockdown and reduce international travel. And on the 19th of March, we had the public awareness program by him, and 22nd we had the lockdown. During the 9 weeks of lockdown, the ICMR became the center stage, and we had all our scientists from different institutes, 40 of them, staying in the ICMR guest house and working till 12 midnight. And we had the IB, we had the RAW, we had the Indian Airlines, the railways, posts. They were all available, helping us for different parts of the country. So then on 22nd of March, the lockdown was imposed, which was a balanced one, not like the one which we had in China or like the one we had in the West. Ours was a middle path where I congratulate every citizen who listened to what was being given as the advisories, and that worked phenomenally well for our country. One little small story I would like to tell, which is we had some tourists from Shia pilgrims who were stranded in Iran. And at that time, Iran, Italy, Germany, United Kingdom were burning, and they were losing people like nine pins. And we had to get those pilgrims back in the month of February, and we were requested, and the ICMR sent 6 of our scientists and technicians to set up a lab in Tehran. Now, Tehran didn't have testing kits, so it couldn't be set up in the public. So it was set in the basement of the Indian embassy in Tehran, and there we were able to test those pilgrims who were negative, were taken back immediately, and we had airlifts from Wuhan, Singapore, Middle East, Europe, by the Air India and other Indian Air Force, and that contributed not only for airlifts for Indian citizens, but of our neighboring countries as well. So before the vaccines development, there were only there were no drugs available, but there were 3 major trials which demonstrated in the world. One was the recovery trial, which demonstrated that steroids are working in a randomized trial and reducing COVID mortality. Then with the WHO did the solidarity trial, which showed that remdesivir is reducing the hospitalization from 11 days to 7 days. And the third major trial was the PLACID trial, done in India, done in district hospitals during the lockdown by video conferencing, and we clearly demonstrated that convalescent plasma did not lead to reduction in progression to severe COVID-19 or all-cause mortality. This was the first randomized trial which was published in the British Medical Journal with 2 editorials, how India democratized research during the lockdown. Then we had the National Sero Survey, and we developed the Indigenous kit, which was developed during the lockdown by travel between Pune and Ahmedabad by car with the different pharma companies, and that was used. Then the Covaxin, which was a collaboration of ICMR and Bharat Biotech International, was based on trust, transparency, timeliness, and mutual respect, wherein the government had 2 approaches. One was leveraging India's scientific prowess, and second was leveraging international science, wherein we were able to develop and mass-scale produce Covishield for the entire world. So the vaccine candidate, we had an MOU with Bharat Biotech, and it isolated the virus on 9th of March. On 31st of March, we gave them the virus. On the end of April, they gave us 3 vaccine candidates, which we tested in monkeys and hamsters and demonstrated safety, immunity, and dosage. And then we had to do a clinical trial or preclinical trial. And at that time, I had received letters. We had to do the trials on monkeys. So we approached the Animal Husbandry, the Department of Environment, and we were asked that whether we could do the trial on the monkeys. During this time, we were given, I had received letters from several animal activists that Dr. Bhargav, you are apparently going to capture monkeys for some vaccine trial. At that time, I had already captured the monkeys. So I said, no, I am not going to capture monkeys. Ashwatthama Hatoho, the same story that we had to tell them. So we captured those monkeys, and they were tested these were the unsung heroes, and we knew that they were taken to the laboratory in Pune at the NIV. They were tested for tuberculosis, their x-rays were done, their all biochemistry was done, and this study was completed, and we found that the vaccine was efficacious. And this was done at the BSL-4 facility, where during the lockdown, where one pulmonologist was flown from Delhi from our ICMR, we had the CTC, the Army Center in Pune, their pulmonologists, they were captive in the ICMR NIV guest house for 4 weeks till they did these experiments, which means anesthetizing the monkeys, giving them the virus by bronchoscopy, and doing bronchoalveolar lavage every day, collecting whether the virus is growing, vaccinated and unvaccinated monkeys. And we found that this vaccine was efficacious, and then there was no looking back, and this was published in Nature Communications. Here again a small story. India working against India. They came to know, the animal activists, that we have completed the animal trial and we have sent the paper for publication to Nature. They wrote to the journal that yes, this trial was done on monkeys, not from a breeding facility, but captured from the wild. The journal wrote to us, and then we sent them all the data, the health data of the monkeys, including the X-rays and the biochemistry, and then the paper was published in Nature Communications, and we were able to go on to the clinical trial, which was published in the Lancet, the phase 1 and the phase 2 of the trial. Now, the pre-pandemic monkeys were available at $2,000 per animal, and look at all the vaccines that were tested on monkeys from China. Now, during the pandemic, it was impossible to get animals, and post-pandemic, the China hiked up the price of monkeys to $20,000 per animal, and an alternate market was created in Vietnam and Cambodia, and we started 2 monkey breeding facilities, one in Hyderabad and one near Bombay, and now we are breeding our own monkeys for various trials and have become self-reliant in this. So the vaccine was developed in 9 months, and so it was established that India, being the pharmacy of the world, is now a vaccine superpower. And I always show this slide, which is 1947, the health minister of India, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, at the port of Bombay, receiving a box of medication from the High Commissioner of Canada. And this box of medicine is nothing other than penicillin. And after that, this led to Hindustan Antibiotics Limited, and then India started exporting penicillin to many parts of the world. And in 2021, we exported the vaccine to more than 100 countries, including Canada. So the vaccine development was critical, and there was timely support in funding, preclinical studies, clinical studies, laboratory studies, epidemiological studies, rolling regulatory review, advanced purchase order, at-risk manufacturing, raw material import, and expedited batch testing. And then we had the National Task Force, which was established under the direction of the Supreme Court, and this was guiding the whole nation on home isolation and care for COVID. And here, our citizens behaved the best, and when we were sending these advisories, myself and the health secretary, we were signing them to all secretaries and to all principal secretaries of all states and all union territories, and this was done the same day, and by 9 a.m. in the morning, the action happened. And here, I salute the bureaucracy of India, how beautifully well-oiled machinery it is, and how well it worked to carry out these advisories. We had the national database, I won't go into that, and our vaccine coverage was the highest with our vaccine manufacturing prowess. I'll continue. We had a mobile BSL-3 laboratory, which we were developed by the same people who developed the BSL-4 laboratory. We were trying to get a mobile BSL-3 laboratory from Germany, from USA, from Switzerland, and also from WHO, but they had those huge machine, airborne kind of reassembled mobile BSL-3 laboratory. We were able to develop this on a bus, which was taken from Delhi to Paro and demonstrated to the CRO ministers of all the Southeast Asia region countries, and this is now available with ICMR to go into the different parts of the country. The last pointer that I would like to talk about is the ICMR drone outreach and response in the Northeast, and this is where we were the first country to send vaccines by drones. Now, the drones were tested at the airstrip in IIT Kanpur because there is an airstrip there, and there we were able to test the drones. And then in Manipur, there is the largest freshwater lake called the Loktak Lake. In the middle of that lake is an island called Karang with a population of 3,000. And the distance is 26 kilometers by road, 3 kilometers by boat, and 2 kilometers by walking. And we were able to, from the district hospital at district health center at Bishnupur to Karang, we were able to send it in 15 minutes for the first time. And then we demonstrated hill to valley in Manipur and in Nagaland. And this is a cartoon that one of our scientists made, that the virus has gone into remote hiding and says that now no one can find me here. And then suddenly you have the drone coming there, and the virus is frightened. We lost 26 of our colleagues, some scientists and some technologists, and we pay our homage and tribute to them for their service to the nation, and they're losing their lives for the service of the nation. And I thank you for your attention, because attention is the rarest and the purest form of generosity. Thank you very much.